Jonathan Ashford believed he owned everything within his walls: the land, the harvest, the bodies that worked his fields. Then a woman who refused to lower her eyes showed him he owned nothing at all. Not even himself. She could read his books, she could meet his questions with silence sharper than any blade. And every night she returned to his library, something inside him cracked wider. In early 1700s Virginia, a man could lose his fortune, his name, his soul. But Jonathan was about to lose something far more dangerous: his certainty that the world he'd inherited was right. If you feel the weight of what's coming, subscribe, and tell me where you're watching from. Jonathan Ashford stood at the window of his office and watched the afternoon light die across tobacco fields. The journey from Williamsburg had taken 3 days. His spine ached. His mind felt heavier. The plantation ledgers sat unopened on his desk. Debt pressed against every column. London investors demanded higher yields. His father's legacy had become a trap built of soil and human breath. Thomas appeared in the doorway. His younger brother carried the smell of horses and impatience. "You've been back 2 hours," Thomas said. "The workers are waiting." "For what?" Jonathan asked. "Discipline, structure. You know what happens when they sense weakness." Jonathan felt tired. He turned from the window. "I'll review operations tomorrow." Thomas's jaw tightened. "We lost production during your absence. That costs us." "I'm aware." "Then act aware." The silence stretched between them. Jonathan looked past his brother into the hallway. A woman moved through the far doorway carrying books. She wore plain gray cloth. Her movements held no hurry, no fear. "Who is that?" Jonathan asked. Thomas glanced back. "One of Delilah's girls. She requested library duty." "She requested?" "Delilah vouched for her. Said she's careful with property." Jonathan watched the woman disappear into shadow. Something in her posture unsettled him. She had not looked toward them. She had not flinched. Thomas moved closer. "We need harsher measures. The workers sense your distraction." "I'm not distracted." "Then prove it." Jonathan's chest tightened. He looked at his brother's face and saw their father's certainty reflected there. The same cold assurance that men could be broken into tools. "Leave me," Jonathan said. Thomas hesitated. Then he turned and left. Jonathan sat at his desk. He opened the first ledger. Numbers blurred. He thought of the woman carrying books. He thought of her steady hands. His breath caught. Something had shifted in his carefully ordered world. The candles burned low in the study. Jonathan read contracts until his eyes ached. The room smelled of tobacco and old leather. He heard footsteps in the hallway. The woman from earlier entered. She carried a stack of volumes. Her eyes swept the shelves with precision. "You're working late," Jonathan said. She stopped. Her voice was quiet. "Delilah sent me to return these." Jonathan stood. He moved closer. She did not retreat. She did not lower her gaze. "Can you read?" he asked. "Would it matter if I could?" The question struck him silent. He looked at her face. She was younger than he'd first thought, perhaps 23. Her skin held lamplight. Her expression revealed nothing. "I asked you a question," Jonathan said. "You asked if I could read. I asked if truth would change anything." Jonathan felt something cold move through his chest. He stepped towards the desk. The woman followed with her eyes. She set the books down carefully. One volume lay open, a page of Latin text. Jonathan touched the page. "Who taught you?" "Someone who wanted me to remember I was still a person." Her voice was steady. No tremor, no apology. Jonathan's throat tightened. "You shouldn't be here." You called me here. I meant... He stopped, his hands pressed against the desk edge. What's your name? Amara. Amara, he repeated. She watched him. Something shifted in her expression. Not fear. Something harder. Something that refused to bend. You should leave, Jonathan said. She turned and walked to the door. She moved without hurry, without submission. Jonathan listened to her footsteps fade. He sat down. The Latin text stared up at him. He closed the book. His breath caught again. He could not sleep that night. Amara knelt beside the wash basin and scrubbed linen in cold water. Dawn light touched the servants' quarters. Her hands moved steadily. Her mind stayed quiet. Delilah entered carrying bread. The older woman's face held lines earned through decades of careful survival. You were in the study last night, Delilah said. He called me there. And? Amara wrung water from cloth. He asked if I could read. Delilah's hands stopped moving. What did you tell him? I asked if it mattered. Child, Delilah's voice was low. Attention from master houses brings danger. You know this. Amara looked up. Being unseen is its own kind of death. Delilah sat down slowly. She touched Amara's shoulder. Your mother said the same thing, before they sold her south. The words landed heavy. Amara felt grief press against her ribs. She returned to scrubbing. I'm not trying to disappear, Amara said. Then you're trying to die. Maybe I'm trying to live. Delilah said nothing. She stood and moved to the window. Outside, workers crossed the yard toward fields. The overseer's voice carried through morning air. Thomas watches you, Delilah said. Amara's chest tightened. I know. Then be careful. Delilah left. Amara finished the washing. She hung cloth to dry. Through the window she saw Thomas standing near the tobacco barns. His eyes scanned the quarters. His gaze found her. Amara turned away. Jonathan walked the garden path in late afternoon heat. Humidity pressed against his skin. He carried papers he could not focus on. His mind returned again and again to the woman who met his eyes without flinching. Amara appeared on the walkway ahead. She carried 3 books against her chest. She did not see him immediately. Jonathan stepped forward. Those are from my private collection. She stopped. Delilah gave me permission to return them. That's not what I asked. Amara's eyes found his. Then ask clearly. Jonathan felt anger rise, then something else, something closer to confusion. Who taught you? I already answered that. You gave me half an answer. It's the only answer I have. Jonathan moved closer. The books between them seemed suddenly important, fragile. Someone who wanted you to remember you were still a person, he said. Those were your words. Yes. Who was it? Amara's jaw tightened. A woman who died remembering she was human, even when the world insisted otherwise. The words fractured something in Jonathan's chest. He looked at the books. One was philosophy, one was poetry, one was scripture. Keep the poetry, he said. Amara stared at him. Why? Because I'm telling you to. That's not a reason. Jonathan's breath caught. It's the only reason I have. She held his gaze. Then she took the poetry volume and turned away. She walked back toward the quarters. Jonathan watched her disappear around the corner. His hands shook. He had just committed a quiet rebellion. The dining room blazed with candlelight. Jonathan sat at the table's head, surrounded by neighboring landowners. They discussed crop yields and market prices. They drank imported wine. Thomas sat across from him. Their guests laughed. Someone told a story about a runaway caught near Richmond. Jonathan felt nausea build. He touched his glass, but did not drink. "Your father knew how to maintain order," one man said. "These younger generations go soft." The others agreed. Jonathan said nothing. A servant brought more wine. Thomas leaned forward. "We're implementing new patrol schedules. Tighter control prevents loss." The landowners nodded approval. Jonathan remembered his father's voice, remembered the whipping post, remembered screaming that ended in silence. A letter arrived on a silver tray. Jonathan opened it. The London investor demanded 20% higher production. The language was cold, efficient. Jonathan looked out the window. Across the yard, Amara knelt beside a small child whose arm was bandaged. She spoke quietly. Her hands moved with gentle precision. "Jonathan." Thomas's voice cut through. "Are you listening?" "Yes." "Then vote. Do we increase discipline or not?" Jonathan's chest tightened. The other men watched him, waiting. "We proceed carefully," Jonathan said. Thomas's eyes narrowed. "Meaning what?" "Meaning I'll decide later." The room fell quiet. Someone coughed. The moment stretched. Jonathan stood. "Excuse me, I need air." He left them staring. Night settled heavy over the quarters. Jonathan stood in shadow near the servants' building. He heard singing, a woman's voice carrying words in a language he did not recognize. Amara. He moved closer. The song continued. It held sorrow. It held something fiercer, something that refused to break. Jonathan knocked. The singing stopped. Amara appeared in the doorway. She wore a plain shift. Her hair was uncovered. "Why are you here?" "I heard singing." "And? What language was that?" Amara's expression hardened. "One you don't own." Jonathan felt anger again, and beneath it, something else. "I asked a simple question." "There are no simple questions between us." "Then answer a complicated one. What were you singing?" Amara stepped outside. She closed the door behind her. "It's for the ones who remember who they were before chains." The words landed like stones. Jonathan's breath caught. He looked at her face in moonlight. "Your mother?" "And hers before." "How many generations?" "Enough to matter." Jonathan's throat tightened. "I don't understand." "No, you don't." The silence stretched. Jonathan heard insects, heard distant voices, heard his own heartbeat too loud in his ears. "I'm trying," he said. "Trying what?" "To see you." Amara's eyes found his. Something shifted in her expression. Not softening. Something more dangerous. Recognition. "Then look harder," she said. She turned and went inside. Jonathan stood alone in darkness. Rain hammered the tobacco fields. Wind tore through leaves. Jonathan rode through mud watching workers struggle to save the crop. An acre of plants bent and broke. Thomas galloped up beside him. His face was dark with rage. "We've lost thousands." "I can see that." "Then do something." "What would you have me do? Control weather?" Thomas's voice was sharp. "Control the workers. Fear prevents this kind of loss." Jonathan felt something cold move through him. "That makes no sense." "It makes perfect sense. Harder work prevents—" "Stop!" They reached the punishment yard. Thomas had already ordered Jesse, a young field hand, tied to the post. The overseer held a whip. Jonathan dismounted. "What did he do?" "Abandoned his post during the storm," Thomas said, "to help children reach shelter. Rules exist for reasons." Jonathan walked forward. Workers watched from a distance. Amara stood among them. Her face was stone. The overseer raised the whip. "Stop," Jonathan said. The overseer froze. Thomas rode closer. "Jonathan, don't!" "I said stop." The yard fell silent. Rain poured. Jonathan met his brother's eyes. He saw shock there, saw calculation. "Cut him down," Jonathan said. The overseer looked at Thomas. Thomas's jaw clenched. Then he nodded once. They cut Jesse free. The young man stumbled. Amara moved forward and caught his arm. She helped him walk away. Her eyes found Jonathan's across the rain. Something had shifted permanently. Night pressed against library windows. Jonathan sat with papers spread before him. He had sent for Amara. She entered quietly. She wore the same gray dress. Her expression revealed nothing. "Sit," Jonathan said. "Why?" "Because I'm asking." Amara sat. She folded her hands. Jonathan pushed a book across the desk. Philosophy. Locke. "Read this," he said. "Why?" "Because I want to know what you think." "My thoughts don't belong to me?" Jonathan's chest tightened. "Tonight they do." Amara opened the book. She read aloud. Her voice was steady, clear. She understood every word. She paused at certain passages. Her eyes showed recognition. "You've read philosophy before," Jonathan said. "Someone taught me to think, not just read." "Who?" "Does it matter?" "Yes." Amara closed the book. "A woman who believed minds couldn't be chained, even when bodies were." Jonathan felt something break inside him. He leaned forward. "What would you do if you were free?" Amara's eyes found his. The question hung between them, heavy, dangerous. "I would still refuse to belong," she said. The words struck him silent. He understood then. She was not waiting for freedom. She was already free in the only place that mattered. "Come back tomorrow night," Jonathan said. "Why?" "Because I need to understand." "Understand what?" "How you survived with your soul intact." Amara stood. She looked at him for a long moment. "My soul isn't intact. It's just mine." She left. Jonathan sat in darkness. He had crossed a line he could never uncross. His hands shook. His breath caught. Everything had changed. 1 week passed. Jonathan moved through daylight hours with mechanical precision. At night, the library became a different world. Amara returned each evening. They spoke carefully. They tested boundaries neither could name. Tonight, Jonathan placed a slim volume on the desk. The cover bore no title. Inside, arguments against human ownership filled every page. "Where did this come from?" Amara asked. "A friend in Philadelphia. Years ago." "Why do you still have it?" Jonathan's throat tightened. "I couldn't throw it away. I couldn't read it either." Amara opened the book. Her eyes moved across text. Something shifted in her expression. Recognition. Ancient recognition. "My mother told me stories," she said, "about people who believed we were human, not property." "What happened to her?" She remembered too loudly. "They sold her south when I was 12. Jonathan felt grief press against his ribs. "I'm sorry." "Sorry doesn't return her." "I know." Amara looked up. "These ideas. You understand them now?" "I'm beginning to." "Beginning isn't enough." Jonathan's hands pressed against the desk edge. "Then what is?" "Choosing. Deciding. Acting." The words hung heavy. Outside, footsteps moved through the hallway. Both of them froze. The steps continued past. Faded. "Thomas suspects something," Amara said. "Let him suspect." "You don't understand the danger." "I understand perfectly." Amara's eyes found his. "No. You understand your danger. Not mine." Jonathan's breath caught. She was right. He risked reputation, position, money. She risked everything. "Then help me understand," he said. Amara closed the book. She stood. "Understanding isn't enough either." She left him sitting in lamplight. Dawn arrived cold. Amara knelt beside the wash basin scrubbing cloth. Her hands moved mechanically. Her mind stayed elsewhere. Delilah entered. Her face held warning. "The overseers are watching you." I know. Then stop going to the library. I can't. Delilah sat down heavily. Child, what are you doing? Learning to speak. Speaking gets you killed. Amara's jaw tightened. Silence does too, just slower. Delilah touched her shoulder. Your mother said the same thing, before they took her away screaming. The words cut deep. Amara felt tears threaten. She blinked them back. I remember. Then remember what it cost. I remember everything. They sat in silence. Outside, Thomas's voice barked orders. Workers moved toward fields. The day's machinery ground forward. He's changing, Amara said quietly. Who? Jonathan. Delilah's expression hardened. Men like him don't change. They just learn to hide better. I think this is different. Hope is dangerous. Amara looked at her hands. Raw, cracked. Living without it is worse. Delilah said nothing. She stood and moved to the door. She looked back once. Thomas is tracking his movements. I heard him talking to the other overseers. Amara's chest tightened. What did he say? That his brother is compromised. That weakness spreads. The words settled like frost. Amara returned to washing. Her hands shook. Everything was accelerating toward collision. Sunday morning. The plantation chapel filled with workers and landowners. Jonathan sat in the front pew, Thomas beside him. The traveling preacher, Reverend Matthew Clark, stood at the pulpit. Clark's voice was steady. A man cannot serve God and mammon. He cannot claim Christ while holding another soul in bondage. The congregation stirred. Several landowners shifted uncomfortably. Thomas's jaw clenched. Jonathan felt something cold move through his chest. He looked at the preacher's face, saw absolute conviction there. Scripture is clear, Clark continued. Do unto others. Love your neighbor. Break every yoke. A landowner stood. Reverend, you overstep. I speak truth. You speak disruption. Clark's eyes swept the room. They landed on Jonathan, held. Some among you know the weight of what I'm saying. They feel it pressing against their souls at night. Jonathan's breath caught. The preacher saw him, truly saw him. After service, people dispersed quickly. Jonathan remained seated. Amara stood near the back. She had listened without moving, without expression. Clark approached. Mr. Ashford. Reverend. Your face tells stories your mouth doesn't speak. Jonathan stood. You don't know me. I know men in crisis. I've seen that expression before. What expression? Someone waking from a long sleep, discovering their house is built on human breath. The words struck like hammer blows. Jonathan's hands tightened. You presume much. I presume nothing. I observe. Thomas appeared. Reverend, your sermon was inappropriate. Truth often is. This is a matter of property law. Clark's voice was quiet. There is no law above conscience, not one that matters. He walked away. Jonathan watched him go. His chest felt tight. Amara's eyes met his across the empty chapel. Evening settled. The garden path lay empty. Jonathan walked alone. Amara appeared from shadow. She had sought him deliberately. Her face held something fierce. We need to talk, she said. Here? Anywhere you'll listen. They moved to a secluded corner. Moonlight touched leaves. The night held its breath. Ask me, Amara said. Ask what? What you've been wanting to ask for weeks. Jonathan's throat tightened. Do you believe I am human? Yes. Then why do I still sleep in chains? The question shattered something. Jonathan felt his carefully constructed world crack. He stepped back. Amara, answer me. It's not that simple. It is exactly that simple. Jonathan's voice was low. The law. The law is wrong. I can't just... Can't or won't? His breath caught. Both, neither, I don't know. Amara moved closer. Her eyes held his. You know, you're just afraid of what knowing costs. I'm trying to change things. Trying is not doing. Then what do you want from me? Her voice was fierce. I want you to choose. Decide if I'm human enough to matter. Decide if your comfort is worth my chains. Jonathan's hands shook. I've already decided. Then prove it. She turned and walked away. Jonathan stood frozen, his chest burned, his mind spun. Everything hung on the edge of transformation. Days passed. Jonathan implemented small changes, better food rations, reduced punishment hours, medical supplies for the sick. He told himself these were steps. Progress. Amara grew colder. She came to the library less frequently. When she did, her eyes held disappointment, something sharper than anger. Tonight she sat across from him. Silence stretched. You're doing things, she said finally. Yes. Small things. They matter. Do they? Jonathan felt defensive. People are eating better, suffering less. Suffering less is not freedom. I'm working toward what? A gentler cage? His jaw tightened. I'm risking everything I have. No, you're risking comfort, status, money. I'm risking my life, every single day. The words cut deep. Jonathan stood. He paced. What would you have me do? I can't just declare everyone free. The law. Stop hiding behind law. I'm not hiding. Then what do you call this? Jonathan's voice was sharp. I call it survival, strategy, building toward something sustainable. Amara's eyes found his. I don't need sustainable kindness. I need freedom. Today, tomorrow, not someday when you feel brave enough. His breath caught. That's not fair. Nothing about this is fair. They stared at each other. The distance between them felt vast, unbridgeable. I'm doing what I can, Jonathan said quietly. Then it's not enough. She left. Jonathan sat alone. His hands covered his face. The truth was devastating. Morning sun burned across the yard. Thomas stood near the tobacco barns. He watched workers move between fields. His expression held calculation. Jonathan approached. We need to talk. About what? Your methods. Thomas turned. My methods maintain order, which is more than I can say for yours. Jonathan's chest tightened. I'm adjusting our approach. You're weakening discipline. Workers notice. They whisper. They test boundaries. They're responding to decency. Thomas's laugh was bitter. Decency. Father would weep. Father was wrong. The words hung between them. Thomas's eyes narrowed. What did you say? You heard me. You're compromised. I'm awake. Thomas stepped closer. His voice was low. I've been watching you. The library visits, the private conversations, the special treatment for certain servants. Jonathan's hands clenched. Be careful. Careful. You're the one courting disaster. Whatever you think you're doing. I'm treating human beings as human. They're property. No, they're not. Thomas's face hardened. You've lost your mind, or worse. What's worse? Your soul, to abolitionist poison. Jonathan felt rage rise. This conversation is over. No, it's just beginning. I'll be watching everything now, every move, every choice. Thomas walked away. Jonathan stood trembling. The plantation suddenly felt like enemy territory. His own brother had become the threat. Late afternoon. Fields stretched hot. Jesse worked alongside other hands. His movements were careful, measured. He sang quietly while working. Thomas appeared on horseback. You, stop singing. Jesse looked up. Sir? I said stop. I was just questioning orders. That's what you were doing. The other workers froze. Jesse's throat tightened. No, sir, I was working. Thomas dismounted. He moved close. You've been spreading ideas. I've heard reports. I don't know what you mean. Lies make it worse. Thomas grabbed Jesse's arm, dragged him toward the punishment yard. Workers watched, silent, terrified. Jonathan heard shouting. He ran from the office, reached the yard as Thomas ordered Jesse tied. What's happening? Jonathan called. Discipline, as required. For what offense? Insubordination. Jesse's voice was quiet. I only spoke back once, when he called me. The whip cracked. Jesse screamed. Jonathan ran forward. Stop this! Thomas raised the whip again. Jonathan grabbed his arm. Brothers faced each other. Rage between them. Let go, Thomas said. Cut him down. No. That's an order. From someone who's lost authority. Workers gathered, watching. Amara stood among them. Her face was stone. Her eyes held fire. Jonathan's voice was steel. Cut him down, now! Thomas hesitated. Then he nodded to the overseer. They cut Jesse free. The young man collapsed. Amara moved forward. She and Delilah helped Jesse walk toward the quarters. Amara's eyes found Jonathan's. She said nothing, but something passed between them. Not gratitude, recognition, acknowledgement. Everything had shifted again. Night pressed against windows. The library felt smaller, darker. Jonathan sat with his head in his hands. Amara entered without knocking. She looked exhausted. Jesse will live, she said. I should have stopped it sooner. You stopped it. That matters. Jonathan looked up. Does it? Really? Amara sat down slowly. Yes. Silence stretched. Then Jonathan pulled papers from his desk drawer. His hands shook. I've been working on something. What? Manumission documents, legal papers. I can free certain people, gradually, starting with... With who? You, Delilah, Jesse, others. Amara stared at the papers. Her expression shifted, softened, then hardened again. When? Soon. I need to arrange finances. Find safe passage north. Build networks. How soon? Months, maybe a year. Her eyes found his. A year. It's complicated. There are legal processes, financial arrangements, if I move too fast. A year in chains feels like eternity. Jonathan's throat tightened. I know. Do you? I'm trying to do this right, safely, so it lasts. Amara reached across the desk. She touched the papers with one finger. This is real? You mean this? Yes. Something shifted in her face. Hope, fragile, terrifying. Then I'll wait. You will? I'll wait, because a promise is not freedom, but it's something. Jonathan's breath caught. He covered her hand with his. The touch lasted only seconds. But everything changed. They had crossed into dangerous territory neither could map. 2 weeks passed. Jonathan worked each night on legal documents. He researched northern contacts. He calculated costs. Freedom required more than intention. It demanded infrastructure. He kept the papers locked in his desk. Only he held the key. Morning arrived cold. Jonathan opened the drawer. His chest tightened. The documents were gone. He tore through every paper, every folder. Nothing. His hands shook. His breath came short. Looking for something? Thomas stood in the doorway. His expression held triumph. You seem distressed. Where are they? Where are what? Jonathan's voice was dangerous. You know exactly what. I know you're keeping secrets, dangerous secrets, ones that threaten everything Father built. Those papers are mine. Everything here is ours, jointly, or have you forgotten? Jonathan moved toward his brother. Give them back. No. Thomas, you're destroying our legacy. I won't allow it. Thomas left. Jonathan stood frozen. The loss felt catastrophic. Months of work, gone. He had to tell Amara. That night she came to the library. Her eyes searched his face. She knew immediately. What happened? The papers. They're gone. Amara's expression shifted. Hope died slowly, like watching light fade. Gone how? Thomas took them, I'm certain. Can you recreate them? Yes, but it takes time. Months. Months. Her voice was flat, dead. Amara, I'm so sorry. She stood. Her movements were mechanical. You promised. I still mean to. A promise is not freedom. You said that once. I should have listened. Don't say that. Her eyes found his. Something had broken. You tried. That's more than most. But trying isn't enough. She walked toward the door. Jonathan felt panic rise. Where are you going? Nowhere. There's nowhere to go. She disappeared into darkness. Jonathan sat alone. His world was collapsing. Everything hung by threads. Evening settled over the plantation gate. A wagon approached. Jonathan stood on the porch, watching. Thomas rode out to meet it. A heavy man dismounted. He wore expensive clothes. His face held cruel calculation. A slave trader from Richmond. Jonathan's stomach turned. He walked toward them. Thomas's voice carried across the yard. We might have some workers available. I'm looking for specific qualities, the trader said. Young, skilled, female preferred. Jonathan's chest tightened. He reached them. What's this about? Thomas turned. Business. James Porter, from Richmond. He's offering excellent prices. Porter extended his hand. Jonathan ignored it. We're not selling. Your brother suggested otherwise. My brother was mistaken. Thomas's jaw clenched. Jonathan. A word. Privately. They moved away from Porter. Thomas's voice was low. This solves everything. The debt, the problems. That girl. No. She's causing disruption. You know it. Sell her south. Problem solved. Absolutely not. This isn't a request. As co-owner, as majority stakeholder, I'm refusing. Final word. Thomas's eyes narrowed. You're proving everything I suspected. Suspect whatever you want. We're not selling anyone. Jonathan walked back to Porter. The answer is no. Leave. Porter studied him. You're certain? Completely. I pay premium rates. I don't care. Porter shrugged. He climbed into his wagon. Your loss, but I'll be back this way, if you change your mind. The wagon departed. Thomas stood trembling with rage. You just refused $10,000. Good. The household saw this. Everyone saw you choose a servant over profit. Jonathan's voice was quiet. Yes, they did. He walked away. Across the yard, Amara stood watching. She had seen everything. Their eyes met. Something passed between them. Understanding. Maybe more. But the danger had only increased. Late night. Jonathan woke to shouting. Smoke smell. He ran outside. The tobacco storehouse burned against black sky. Flames reached toward stars. Workers formed bucket lines. Water splashed. Fire roared. Hours passed before they controlled it. Dawn revealed destruction. Half the storage gone. Thousands in product lost. Thomas stood surveying damage. His face was stone. This was deliberate, he said. Jonathan felt exhausted. You don't know that. I know exactly that. Someone set this fire. Overseers gathered. Workers stood at distance, fear thick in air. Who had access? An overseer asked. Thomas's eyes scanned the crowd. They stopped on Jesse, on Amara. Certain people had reasons, grudges. Jonathan stepped forward. Don't. Don't what? Find the truth? Don't accuse without evidence. Thomas pointed. That boy. Jesse. He was beaten 2 weeks ago. He has motive. Jesse's eyes widened. I didn't. And her. Thomas pointed at Amara. She's been in the main house, had access to everything. Amara's face was stone. She said nothing. Jonathan's voice was steel. You have no proof. I have pattern, disruption, rebellion. It started when you weakened discipline. I improved conditions. You invited chaos. The workers watched, silent, terrified. Jonathan felt the situation spiraling. No one is being accused without evidence. No one is being punished without investigation. Thomas stepped close. You're protecting them. Everyone sees it. The household is splitting. Half support you, half support actual order. Actual order was burning people's souls. Now it's burning our property. They stared at each other. The divide was complete, irreparable. That night, Amara came to Jonathan's study. Her face held fear. Real fear. First time he'd seen it. Thomas is planning something, she said. I know. I need to leave, before he acts. Jonathan's breath caught. Leave how? However I can. The words hung between them. Everything was accelerating toward catastrophe, before dawn. Darkness pressed thick. Jonathan couldn't sleep. He stood at his window watching. A figure moved through shadow toward the woods. Amara. He ran, no coat, no shoes, just running. He caught her at the tree line. She spun. Her eyes were wild. Don't stop me. Amara, wait. No, Thomas is arranging my sale. I heard him talking to the overseers. Tonight, before you wake. He's decided. Jonathan's chest tightened. I won't let him. You can't stop him, not anymore. Your brother has gathered support. Half the landowners. You're losing control. Then I'll... What? Fight the law? The courts? The entire system? Yes. She stared at him. Tears finally came. You can't save me. Not within this world's rules. Jonathan reached into his coat pocket. He pulled out folded papers. His hands shook. These are travel documents. Forged. Purchased last week after the originals disappeared. Amara took them. Her fingers trembled. What are these? Free papers, not legal, but good enough. Routes north, names of safe houses, money sewn into the binding. Why didn't you tell me? Because I was still trying to find another way, a legal way, a safe way. There is no safe way. Jonathan's throat tightened. I know that now. Amara looked at the papers, at him, at the dark woods. Come with me. What? Come with me. Leave this. All of it. Jonathan felt the invitation like a blade. Everything he'd ever known, ever owned, ever been, against everything he'd discovered about who he actually was. I can't. Not yet. There are others. Jesse, Delilah, I can't abandon them. Then I go alone. Yes. She touched his face once, brief, burning. You're too late, but you tried. That matters. She turned and ran into darkness. Jonathan stood frozen, watching her disappear, his world ending, beginning. The sun rose without her.